a press release. And that press release is dated the 20th of January 2022. Of course, that is yesterday. And it is a statement issued by former Comptroller of Customs, Mr. Peter D. Chiquot. So you remember this whole customs matter, again, involving this Land Rover Sport vehicle. And there are several stories on this and media appearances by some of the parties involved. For example, there's a story that Acting Comptroller of Customs, Sherman Emmanuel, has accepted that the actions of the Customs and Excise Department against Dr. Ernest Hilaire were unnecessary and agrees to drop all charges. On November 12, 2020, acting on directives from then Comptroller of Customs, Peter Chiquot, armed with a warrant, customs officers arrived at Hilaire's Rodney Bay home at about 9 p.m. to detain his Land Rover Sport SUV, which has been in contention. Chiquot claimed there were several irregularities with the importation of the vehicle. According to him, Dr. Hilaire failed to produce certain documents supporting the importation of the Land Rover Sport to customs, which he imported during his stint as St. Lucia's High Commissioner to the UK. Mediation was held on December the 1st with customs, where it was agreed that all charges against the Castries South MP would be dropped. The matter is expected to be heard before a magistrate later today, and Loop News understands that the vehicle will be returned to Dr. Hilaire and paid compensation. Dr. Hilaire also filed a lawsuit against Mr. Chiquot for misconduct in public office and damages. A story extracted from Loop St. Lucia on December the 2nd. Now let me turn my attention to that press release. And we have not heard from the former Comptroller of Customs, Mr. Peter D. Chiquot, on this matter. Just clear the throat, because I'll have to do a lot of reading as far as this press release is concerned. So please stand by as I go through that release. Once again, Peter D. Chiquot, former Comptroller of Customs, January 20th, 2022, statement to the media. It starts. This message is sent for the purpose of providing clarity to the St. Lucian public and dispelling the rumors and misinformation in the press and social media on the matter regarding the detention and seizure of the Range Rover imported by the former High Commissioner Dr. Ernest Hilaire. I would like to apologize to the public for not making a statement earlier due to the provisions of Section 411, 412, and 413 of the staff orders, which states public officers and the press. 411.1. No officer, whether he is on duty or leave of absence, shall allow himself to be interviewed on questions of public policy or any matter of a political or administrative nature, or on matters affecting the administration or the security of any state or territory, or D, speak in public or broadcast in any way on matters which may be reasonably be regarded as of political administrative nature, provided that the provisions of this order shall not apply to an officer acting in pursuance of his official duties and with the prior permission of the minister. Provided also that the statements be for publication of factual and technical information may be made by permanent secretaries, heads of departments, and other senior officers if authorized by their minister. Publication of official documents. 412. Unless authorized by the minister in writing, no officer shall make public or communicate to the press or to authorized individuals any documents, papers, or information which may come into his possession in his official capacity, or make private copies of any such document or paper. Every public officer is required to exercise due care and diligence to prevent unauthorized access to or disclosures of such documents and information. Publication of books or articles. 413. Nothing in the preceding two orders shall be deemed to prevent an officer from publishing in his own name by writing, speech, or broadcast matters other than that which may reasonably be regarded as of a political or administrative nature, provided that if the publication is a book, article, or other work, the subject of which is connected with the officer's official duties or those of other officers, the prior consent of the Secretary to the Cabinet is obtained. As a responsible and law-abiding civil servant, shortly after lodging the three matters against Dr. Hilaire in the Magistrates' Court in October of 2021 for failing to comply with the lawful directive from the Comptroller of Customs under Section 102 of the Customs Control and Management Act, Caps 15.05 of 2017, a verbal request was made in a discussion with the Permanent Secretary of the Department of Finance to respond to the many statements made and attacks on my integrity by Dr. Ernest Hilaire and his comrades in the media. I was reminded of the provisions of the staff orders above and was told to refrain from making any statements until the necessary permission is given. So I complied and did not make that statement. However, the maligning, threats, and abuse continued unabated since the persons making the statements, being non-public servants, were not bound by the laws or rules. Realizing the persistent logorrhea by these individuals, especially due to the unprecedented move to withdraw the matters against Dr. Ernest Hilaire and the return of the vehicle to him, I was forced to write officially to the PS Finance for the necessary clearance to address this matter publicly and to use the documents and information in my possession in preparation for my defense against the continued suit by Dr. Ernest Hilaire. In a written response from the PS Finance, I was informed that I should await a final response on the provisions of the staff orders due to ongoing consultations with the PS Public Service, Cabinet Secretary, and the same Attorney General, Mr. Leslie Mondesir, whom I had also written on two occasions, the first on December 8th, 2021, with a deadline of December 20th, 2021, and then on December 24th, 2021, with a deadline of December 30th, 2021, asking for clarification from his office on my legal counsel, since in both matters against the Comptroller of Customs and Peter D. Chiquot, we were represented by the Attorney General's chambers. To date, I have not received any written response from his office, and based on the provisions of Chapter 1, Protection of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms, Section 1A, Fundamental Rights and Freedoms of the Constitution of St. Lucia, which gives me the right to equality before the law and the protection of the law, I have consulted with my private attorney in preparation for the defense due to the silence of the Attorney General on his office position or office's position. Constitution, Chapter 1, Protection of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms. 1. Fundamental Rights and Freedoms. Whereas every person in St. Lucia is entitled to the fundamental rights and freedoms, that is to say, the right, whatever his or her race, place of origin, political opinions, color, creed, or sex, but subject to respect for the rights and freedoms of others and for the public interest to each and all of the following, namely, A. Life, liberty, security of the person, equality before the law, and the protection of the law. B. Freedom of conscience, of expression, and of assembly and association. And C. Protection for his or her family life, his or her personal privacy, the privacy of his or her home and other property, and from deprivation of property without compensation. The provisions of this chapter shall have effect for the purpose of affording protection to those rights and freedoms subject to such limitations of that protection as are contained in these or those provisions, being limitations designed to ensure that the enjoyment of the said rights and freedoms by any person does not prejudice the rights and freedoms of others of the public interest. These logorrheic persons continue to defy the laws of St. Lucia and embolden themselves in the efforts to continually mask that defiance by portraying me as the lawbreaker. This is unfortunate when the uninformed public continues to be misled with misinformation about the laws, operations, and policies of the Customs and Excise Department. I am confident that the PS in Finance is doing her best, and so I'm bound to my commitment to her and will not publish any document as yet, but will wait for the necessary authorization before doing so. Now, since the Attorney General is obligated to continue providing legal counsel to me in the performance of my duty under Section 119 and 120 of the Customs Control and Management Act, Cap 15.05 of 2017, it is important that Mr. Mondesir state his office's position on the continuation or discontinuation of representation for the matter against me in light of the withdrawal by Dr. Ernest Hilaire and his legal team against the Comptroller of Customs in exchange for the withdrawal of the 3 matters against him. Having said that, there are some questions that must be asked to all involved to get a full understanding of this situation, especially the Attorney General himself, as well as Dr. Ernest Hilaire and his legal team, which included Mr. Leslie Mondesir. And it goes on to Mr. Leslie Mondesir, Attorney General. I don't want to cast aspersion on anyone, that's me speaking now, so I'll not go into the questions. Don't want to convey any false information via innuendo, etc. But there are 11 questions posed to Mr. Leslie Mondesir in his capacity as Attorney General. And there are 11 questions posed to the current Comptroller of Customs. There are also 4 questions being posed by Mr. Chiquot to the DPP. And those questions include: was your office informed about the mediation of December 1st, 2021? 2. Was there any discussion with the current Comptroller of Customs on the withdrawal of the matter? 3. Did anyone from your office attend the mediation session with the current Comptroller? And 4. Did your office provide any guidance to the Comptroller to withdraw those matters? Continuing the press release by Mr. Peter D. Chiquot, these are only some of the questions that need answers from the parties involved for some clarity in the whole matter. Once the clearance is given to address the matter, I promise that I will make myself available to answer all questions on consultation with my attorney. I also want to inform all that I had absolutely no involvement in the decision by the Comptroller and had no knowledge of it or the last mediation session. The current Comptroller, on or about October the 4th, 2021, asked for the files relating to the matters and informed me that the Attorney General, Mr. Leslie Mondesir, wanted to meet with him to discuss the matter on the 7th of October, 2021. The files were handed over, and I advised that he tread carefully and not participate in anything that may be an attempt to circumvent the requirement of the law. He took the files and did meet with Mr. Leslie Mondesir on October 7, 2021. I was never informed of the outcome or discussions held at the meeting. There had been no other communication on or about the matter between the acting Comptroller and myself until the morning of December the 2nd, 2021, half an hour before the dismissal of the matter by him in the court. I also must indicate that I had no involvement in the mediation or discussion which led to the withdrawal of the matters against Dr. Ernest Hilaire until the morning of December the 2nd, 2021 at about 8:30 a.m. when I was informed in a discussion by the acting Comptroller. I also want to inform the public that I'm prepared to steer a course to ensure that the rule of law is upheld and to ensure that law-abiding public servants who genuinely give their lives to service to the country are not trampled upon or abused. It is against my conscience to allow the laws of the country to be exploited and abused by anyone, and I'm asking the media to continue driving this matter until it is blown wide open, and like the Prime Minister said, quote, justice is served, end of quote, because no individual is above the law. I'm also asking the rest of the hardworking public servants to stand up against corruption in the service to ensure equality and fairness for each and every citizen of St. Lucia. The media must ensure that they probe the stakeholders involved so as to bring out the truth to all, because they deserve to know the truth. To ensure that the public gets an understanding of the situation, I've included some sections of the customs laws which guided every step taken in this matter. The highlighted and underlined portions are very important to note. Legal definitions as per the Customs Control and Management Act of the Laws of St. Lucia 2017, entered means how goods are deemed entered or accounted for. In the case of dutiable goods, except on the entry for warehousing of imported goods, means the payment by the importer or exporter to the proper officer of the full duties thereon, or else, where permitted, the deposit of a sum of money or giving of security for the duties as provided by the law. And it goes on with several other definitions in that press release, once again by Mr. Peter D. Chiquot. And it concludes with an action, suit, or other proceedings shall not be brought or instituted personally against any officer in respect of any act done by him or her under any power granted to or duty imposed on him or her by a customs enactment. Press release coming from former Comptroller of Customs, Mr. Peter D. Chiquot, dated 20th of January 2022. Newspin is brought to you with the very kind compliments of Lazarus Funeral Parlor.